Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be doing a dramatic reading of the first of two stories from Space Patrol and the Secret Weapon, which is a storybook sorry, based on the television series that was released in 1965 for Christmas a few years back. So yeah, enjoy. The world was an unusual place in the year 2100. Skyscrapers 300 stories high pointed shining fingers skywards. Roads had disappeared, and cars had been replaced by monobiles, shining silver capsules that whisked through the plastic tunnels linked one building with another. Space travel was as common as travelling from London to Brighton or Manchester to Blackpool, and the safety of the universe was carried out by the United Galactic Organization. Earth, Mars, and Venus were the leading members, and each patrol ship, called a Galasphere, was crewed by one man from each of these planets. Captain Larry Dart, who flew in Galasphere 347 with Slim the Venusian, and Husky, the Martian, had just returned to space headquarters after a week's leave, when the buzzer in the rest room flashed, indicating that Colonel Raven, head of the UGO, wished to see him. "I suppose that means we'll be going on another mission," Dart said. "I wonder where it will be this time." When he entered Raven's circular-shaped office and took one look at the moustached face, with its greying crew-cut hair and sharp, steely eyes, he knew that whatever the job ahead, it was not going to be a pleasant one. "There's trouble on northern Jupiter," Raven said without preamble. "As you know, it's occupied by two different races, and they've been at each other's throats for the last 100 years. "What are they fighting about?" Dart asked. "They don't remember, but the Dells and Myocels are all brought up to hate each other." "Why don't we just leave them alone?" "Because the Dells have developed a machine that can destroy their enemies from a distance of thousands of miles, and I'm afraid that one day they might use it on us. That's why I want you to go to northern Jupiter immediately." Within 2 hours, Larry Dart and his crew had passed through the decontamination chamber, where all their Earth germs were destroyed, and were heading through space in their Galasphere. The journey to Jupiter took several days, and, because food was limited, due to lack of room, the three spacemen went into the freezer compartment. In a matter of moments they were frozen into unconsciousness, protected by the automatic time switch, which would turn off the freezer either in an emergency or as they approached Jupiter. Silently the Galasphere sped through the darkness of space, and gradually Jupiter appeared like a shining dot in the distance. Gradually the dark bands that made the planet recognizable became clearer. The automatic time switch turned off the freezer, and Dart and his men awakened and took their places in the control cabin. "What are the Dells and Myocels like?" Husky the Martian asked. "Quite different from us," said Slim the Venusian, who knew everything. "But you must wait and see them for yourself." "I don't mind how strange they look," Husky grunted, "as long as they have good food." "You and your stomach," said Slim in disgust. "My stomach is me," Husky replied indignantly, "and if I don't fill it, it grimbles at me." "The word is grumbles." "Stop arguing," Dart interrupted. "Slim, switch off the meson power and lower speed. Husky, change course and head for northern Jupiter." "Which part?" asked Husky. "Dealer, the Dell capital. They're the one with this new weapon, and I want to see them before I visit the Myocels." 20 minutes later the Galasphere landed at Dealer, and Dart called the leaders aside and requested an interview. "Remain in your spaceship," a guttural voice commanded over the transmitter. "Dell guards will collect you." "I hope you'll be safe," Slim said anxiously. Before Dart could answer, the buzzer sounded on Husky's intercom, and the Martian signaled that the Dell guards were waiting outside. Pulling on his space helmet, for Jovian air was poisonous to Earthmen, Dart left the safety of the Galasphere, and, stepping outside, saw the Dells. During his years as a member of Space Patrol, Dart had seen many odd creatures, but none so odd as these immensely tall, emaciated aliens. Their arms were as thin as knitting needles, and their fingers were no thicker than matchsticks. By comparison, their heads were large, and their voices deep and booming. We will escort you to our leader, said the captain of the guard. Follow us. Gliding like ghosts over the ground, they led Dart across the mist-covered land towards a black metallic building. Doors slid open, and Dart found himself in a large room, bare except for a huge silver throne. On it sat the leader. It's a long time since Earthmen have visited us here, he said. Your colonel has often asked us to join the UGO, and I suppose you have come for the same reason. Dart hesitated and then decided to tell the truth. I have come to try and put an end to your war with the Myocels. A look of fury passed over the leader's face, and his thin fingers gripped the edge of his throne so tightly that the silver crumbled. They might be thin, Dart thought wryly, but they're certainly strong. We will never cease fighting the Myocels until we've destroyed them, the leader boomed. They are ignorant people, and we want their land. Jupiter's big enough for millions more people, Dart protested. The Myocels must be destroyed, came the answer. And they will be destroyed. We have a new weapon. The leader stopped, and Dart looked at him innocently. Oh, a new weapon? The Del's large yellow eyes changed colour, going so dark a brown that they were almost black. This, Larry knew, meant the Del was becoming angry, and he realized that one wrong word could bring about his death. The eyes in front of him grew darker still, and sensing that his silence was upsetting the Del, Dart said quickly, Colonel Raven told me that your people are so brilliant that within a few years you will be the leader of the universe. The dark brown eyes changed to cinnamon, and then to amber, and finally back to yellow. Your colonel is clever, came the reply. Our weapon will conquer all races, but first the Myocels must be destroyed. I'd like to see this weapon, Dart said. You will never learn its secrets, the leader smiled, but I will show it to you. Once more under guard, Dart followed the leader to the outskirts of the city, and an underground building built cunningly inside one of the mountains that ring the capital. His feet echoed down steel corridors, and the pale gold faces of the Dells glistened like metal in the brilliant white light that shone from the walls. The Dells are even more intelligent than Raven realizes, Dart thought, and his feeling was confirmed as he finally came to a stop in a large room, in the center of which, on a platform, stood a machine some 3 feet square. It was made of an unusual glowing blue substance that Dart had never seen before, and thousands of wires trailed from its insides and were linked to a smaller red box 2 yards away. Although the weapon was smaller than Dart had believed, there was something so evil about it that he shuddered. You do well to be afraid, the leader said triumphantly. This machine will end all wars and make us the conquerors of the universe. What does it do? It sets up a series of supersonic vibrations, sounds of such high frequency that they cannot be heard. These vibrations will paralyze the nervous system of anyone who comes into contact with them. The leader pointed to the red box. There have been many supersonic weapons before, but this one has 1,000,000 times more strength. If we direct the machine southwards and switch it on, the vibrations will travel 1,000 miles without losing strength, and everyone within an area of 100 miles will be paralyzed. Dart was horrified. That means you can destroy an entire army. Exactly. And if we point it to the sky, it can destroy a whole fleet of aircraft. The leader's thin, lipless mouth curved in an evil smile. So you see, your colonel has good reason to be afraid of us. He certainly has, said Dart. I can't wait to get back and tell him. It's no good just telling him. The leader put his match-like fingers on Dart's arm. I want you to see it work. At noon tomorrow we will destroy the Myocels. I'd like you and your crew to be here. Dart returned to the Galasphere and quickly told them, slim and husky, all he has learned. Do you believe it? Husky asked. The leader's prepared to give us proof of everything he says at noon tomorrow. This machine has got to be destroyed, Slim said. Otherwise there will be a galactic war. I know. Dart's voice was grim. "At the moment the Dells are busy with the myocells, but once they've been destroyed, there's no doubt they'll start thinking of conquering other planets." "Can we bomb the building?" Husky asked. "No, it's housed in a mountain and we've nothing with us capable of blowing it up." "There must be something we can do." "Right now I'd like to see the myocells," Dart said, and turned on the meson power unit. The Galasphere rose gracefully and sped across the snow-capped plains to Marga, the myocell capital. Even from a distance, the city was entirely different from Dila. The buildings were made of marble that glowed with 1,000 colours, and though the people who walked the streets waved their forearms like feelers and turned their circular heads from side to side in a strange, clockwork manner, they nonetheless gave the impression of being warm and friendly. It was an impression confirmed when Dart met the myocell president. We understand you have come from visiting the Dell leader," he said in a gentle, flute-like voice. "I suppose you have come to tell us that we'll be destroyed at noon tomorrow." "You mean you know?" "We have known for a long time. We have many spies." "Is there no way of destroying the Dell's machine?" "We have tried, but without success. We're not a clever people when it comes to sciences." "Have you tried to become friends with the Dells?" "We have wanted to for the past 100 years, but their leader is an evil man, and so was his father and grandfather before him." "What would happen if the leader died? Would his sons carry on the fight?" The myocell's head shook from side to side. "The leader has no son. If he died, another family called Darsa would take control." "Are they enemies too?" "No." The president smiled for the first time. "Massa has been in love with my daughter for many years, and if he came to power he would declare peace between our countries." "It's a pity the leader can't be killed," Dart murmured. "He is too well guarded," the president answered. Dart sighed. It was obvious he was not going to get any help from the myocells. If the Dell weapon and the leader were to be destroyed, it was up to him and his men to do it. Once more he returned to the Galasphere and told Husky and Slim what had happened. "We've got to destroy that machine somehow. Maybe, if we take a close look at it, Husky can find a way of making it harmless." Husky looked modest, though his words weren't. "I am sure I can do it, but right now I'm too hungry to think." "I can take the hint," Dart grinned. "Help yourself to a bottle of protein pills behind you." "I'm tired of pills. What I want is a Martian sausage dipped in honey. Let's go into the city and have a meal." Dart shook his head. "I want to get back to the Dells. You can eat there." "Vegetable juice and milk from a Jovian goat," Husky said crossly. "That's what the Dells live on." "It's made them even stronger than you are," Dart replied. "Have you ever seen fingers like matchsticks crush a piece of silver as if it were paper?" Husky's eyes widened, and for the rest of the journey back to Dila, he sat in thoughtful silence. It was dusk when they reached the Dell capital again, and as they landed on the swampy marshland that bordered the city, the Galasphere was surrounded by guards. "Looks as though the leader isn't taking any chances on us," Dart remarked. "No guard's going to stop me getting out if I want to," Husky said. "We might be able to fight one Dell," Dart replied, "but we couldn't fight 100. There was a gloomy silence in the cabin, and slowly the hours ticked by. 2 a.m., 4 a.m., each passing hour bringing closer the death of the myocells. "There must be some way of getting out of here," Dart murmured desperately. "You have already informed us it is impossible," Slim spoke in his usual pedantic way. "I know I did," Dart said, "but I'm hungry," said Husky. "I wish you wouldn't keep on with that hobby horse of yours," Slim said crossly. "Right now I'm so hungry," Husky answered, "that if I had a hobby horse here, I'd eat it. Why can't you two be—" Dart's voice trailed away, and he banged his hand down on his knee. "That's it," he said. "You've given me the answer." "What answer?" asked Husky. "A way of getting out of here. It was the word hobby horse that did it." Dart leaned towards Slim. "What new hobby are you studying at the moment?" "Ventriloquism," Dart grinned. When I was talking to the Dell leader, I switched on my wrist tape recorder. He pulled back his shirt cuff and disclosed a recorder the size of a halfpenny. He pressed a tiny knob, and the leader's voice boomed out into the cabin. After a moment, Dart switched it off. "Now then," he said to Slim, "here's what I want you to do." 5 minutes later, Dart turned on the loudspeaker in the galosphere, which would enable his voice to be heard outside the spaceship. "I'm calling the captain of the guards," he said. "I have a message from your leader." The Dells, grouped in a circle round the galosphere, stood to attention, and one of them stepped forward. "We will obey no message except from the leader himself." "It is from the leader," Dart said. "He has relayed it via the transmitter in my cabin, and I'll switch it on for you to hear." There was a click, and then the leader's voice boomed out in the misty air. "The men in the galosphere are my friends," he said, "and you are not to guard them any longer. Return to your barracks immediately." The voice ceased, and inside the cabin Dart looked at the television lens he had switched on. It gave him a picture of the guards, and he saw them looking at each other. Would his plan work, or would they remain obstinately where they were? His heart beat so fast he felt it trembling through his body. "You'd better get angry," he said to Slim. Slim leaned towards the microphone, and from his small, delicate mouth came the booming voice of the leader. "This is my final message to the captain of the guard. If I am not obeyed within 5 seconds, I will have you executed." "I am sorry, my lord." The captain of the guard's voice echoed in the control cabin. "But it is unusual for you to change your mind." "I am the leader, and I can change my mind whenever I like. Now go!" Dart wiped the sweat from his forehead. "Now let's get out of here and head for the mountain." Soon the galosphere was left far behind as the three spacemen sped across the plain towards the dark mountain that raised its brooding bulk towards the night sky. The door leading to the underground building gleamed dully in the moonlight, but luckily there were no guards outside it, and no sign of life. "How do we get in?" Husky asked. "The door works to the sound of the leader's voice," Dart replied, and looked at Slim. Once more Slim pitched his voice low. "I am the leader. Open!" The great metal sheet slid back, and the three men entered the building. Immediately the door closed behind them, and, as it clanged shut, Dart knew that if their plan failed they would never leave the place alive. Quickly he led the way down the brightly lit corridors, pausing before each corner to make sure no guard was in sight. Luck was with them, for the building seemed deserted, and it was not until they reached the room which housed the weapon that they saw their first guard. "This is where you take over," Dart whispered to Husky. With the grace of a cat, the Martian tiptoed towards the guard, and, as the Dell turned, Husky's fingers gripped the thin throat. The Dell struggled, and the pipe-like arms twisted themselves like octopus tentacles round Husky's body. The Martian grunted with pain and tried to get free, but the Dell's grip was too tight and its pressure increased. Husky felt as though his bones were being crushed, and the light blurred in front of his eyes. He increased the pressure on the Dell's throat, but nothing seemed to affect the tentacles enclosing him. Suddenly, for the first time in his life, anger took the place of strength. "You won't win!" he gasped, and with a sudden swoop of fury caught one of the Dell's ears between his teeth. There was a gasp of pain, a strangled scream, and for an instant the tentacles loosened. It was the chance Husky waited for. So fast that it was difficult for the eye to follow, he swung the Dell into the air and threw him hard against the steel door. The metal clanged as the long, thin body hit it, and the Dell slithered unconscious to the floor. "That was a close haircut, all right," Husky panted. "You mean a close shave," said Slim, and patted his friend on the arm. "Leave the congratulations till later," Dart said. "We've a lot of work ahead of us." Once more Slim's voice mimicked the leader's, and the steel door in front of them slid back. Quickly they entered the room that housed the weapon. "It looks too small to be dangerous," Slim murmured. Husky moved over to it and peered at the wires. "It's fantasticacious. Each wire is linked to a special vibration, and this red box is automatically powered. That's why the machine has such strength." As always, Dart was amazed at Husky's knowledge of machinery. "Is there any way of making it harmless?" The only way is to destroy the red box, but the moment I open it, it will set up an alarm, and we'll have 1,000,000 Dells down on us. We can't give up now." Dart's voice was desperate, but Husky appeared not to notice the machine, and stared at the thousands of wires snaking their way from the black box to the red one. "If I could switch the positive to the negative, and make the negative neutral—" His voice mumbled off into silence, and Dart and Slim watched fascinated as the Martian's large hands, with the delicacy of a ballerina's, began gently to alter the positioning of the wires. The minutes ticked away as Husky worked, and at last, as Dart's watch showed 7 a.m., Husky turned and looked at him happily. "It's ready, Captain." "Are you sure it will work?" "I'm sure it won't work," came the reply. Dart's smile was grim. "We'd better get out of here." As they moved to the door, a klaxon sounded and footsteps echoed outside. "Must be the day guards coming on duty," Dart whispered. "We don't stand a chance of getting out now." He glanced round the room and noticed a screen at the far end. "Our only chance is to hide behind it and hope we're not discovered." Hidden behind the screen, the three spacemen watched as the large room filled with Dell guards. They spoke in their own tongue, and though Dart could not understand what was being said, as the time passed he realized the guards had no intention of leaving the room. "Looks as though we'll know at first hand whether your plan has worked," he whispered to Husky, "and if it doesn't, the three of us will be dead ducks." The hours dragged past, and it became increasingly difficult for Dart and Slim and Husky to remain motionless. Once Husky nearly sneezed, only managing to stop himself by gripping his nose tightly. Once Slim, inching forward to peer round the side of the screen, nearly slipped on the glass-like floor, and was only saved from giving away their presence by Dart catching hold of his hair and dragging him back. "It's 2 minutes to 12, Dart whispered suddenly. As he spoke, the door slid open and the leader entered. "The galosphere is empty, and the Earthmen cannot be found. All the guards who were looking after the ship must be destroyed." The Dell captain glided forward. "We were only acting on your instructions when we left the ship." "I gave no instructions," the leader boomed. "Those Earthmen were too clever for you." His voice rose in fury, and a Dell by the leader's side touched him on the arm. "Only 30 seconds to go," he said. "Carry out our plan first, and deal with the captain and the guards later." The leader moved across to the machine. "Open the wall," he commanded. One side of the vast wall slid back, disclosing the marshland, and in the distance, the range of mountains that showed where the land of the Myocels began. "In 30 seconds' time, our enemies will no longer exist, and northern Jupiter will be ours." The leader's fingers hovered over a shining knob on the red box. 15 seconds. 10. 5. Sharply, his hand came down and pulled the knob to the left. The red machine glowed with fire, pulsing as though it had a life of its own. "It's working! It's working!" There was a roar of triumph from the Dells round him, though Dart, peering from behind the screen, saw that a group of Dells in one corner did not join in the cheer. In fact, one man in the centre of the group moved his head as though in pain, and Dart was certain it was Massa, the man who loved the Myocels president's daughter. "How long will it be before we know whether the Myocels have been destroyed?" one of the Dells asked. 5 minutes. I ordered that as the machine was switched on, one of my private aircraft will fly over the Myocel capital. In 3 minutes from now, you'll see a picture of a dead city on a television screen." As he spoke, another part of the wall moved back, disclosing a blank screen. Every yellow eye turned towards it, waiting for the moment of triumph. The screen flickered into life. Blurred images grew distinct, and the beautiful marble buildings of the Myocel capital came into focus. "Now you'll see the success of my invention," the leader gloated. The picture on the screen changed, showing the main street of the capital. People were moving along it, their arms waving, their heads nodding. The leader stared. "They're alive!" he shouted. "They're still alive!" "Your machine hasn't worked." The captain of the guards stepped forward. "What's gone wrong?" "I do not know.
The machine has to work. It's my own invention. It took me a lifetime to create it."
"And now it has failed." It was Marsa who spoke. He stepped forward from his corner and, ignoring the leader, looked at the other Dells. "And now it has failed," he repeated. "This is a sure sign that our gods are angry."
"Be quiet!" the leader screamed, advancing towards Marsa, his thin fingers clenched.
"You may kill me if you like," Marsa said, "but if I die, there'll be 1,000 to take my place. You and your family are evil, and you have ruled us with evil for too long." There was a faint murmur of agreement behind him, and, feeling it, Marsa's voice grew more confident. "For too long we've listened to you," he continued, "and now it's time your power was destroyed."
"Kill him!" the leader boomed. "He is a traitor!"
The captain of the guards, who knew he would be put to death if the leader remained in command, moved over to Marsa's side.
"Marsa's right," he said. "It's time we stopped thinking in terms of war. We should decide to live in peace." "Traitor!" screamed the leader, and turned to the other guards. "Kill them! Kill them both!"
Behind the screen, Dart tensed. If the leader was obeyed, they had lost everything, for there was no doubt that once he had time to look at the machine, the Dell would realize what had happened. But was Marsa strong enough to win? Could a man like the leader, whose family had ruled the Dells for so long, be destroyed so quickly? "Don't listen to this evil man," Marsa shouted. "The Mycells might not look like us, but this doesn't mean they are different from us. They have wives and children, they love and die the way we do, and it's wrong to fight them." The murmuring voices of approval around Marsa grew louder, and the leader screamed and lurched across the room to grip his throat. The captain of the guards raised a shining blue cylinder. There was a sharp whine. The leader's hands fell from Marsa's throat, and the tall, thin body fell lifeless to the ground. The captain of the guard turned to Marsa. "You are our new leader," he said, "and we wish you to train us to live in peace." Marsa said, and placed his hands on the Dell's shoulders, "You are my loyal friend, and you will be my second in command." "Let's come out and tell the Dells we did it," Husky whispered. Dart shook his head. "No, let them believe the machine was destroyed by an unknown force." "But I did it," Husky said. "I'll make sure Rayburn knows," Dart promised. "But I don't want the Dells to know. We must stay behind the screen until the building's clear and we can get out without being seen." For another hour the three men remained hidden, and the noonday sun was riding the Jovian sky before they were finally able to return to the Galasphere. "What do you think will happen?" Slim said, as they slowly lifted from the ground. "Marsa will marry the president's daughter, and in a few years the Mycells and the Dells will be living together as one people."
"And all because of Slim being a ventriloquist," Husky grunted, "and me being clever with machinery."
Slim laughed. "Do you want a medal?"
"I can't eat a medal," Husky said.
Dart bent down towards his locker and brought out a large, evil-smelling Martian sausage. "Here," he said, "this is a little surprise for you." Husky gave a whoop of delight.
"You're a real friend," he said, his mouth full of sausage. "Now let's head for Earth. I think I'd like that medal after all."
And that's the end. So I hope you enjoyed this little dramatic reading. Sorry for a couple of errors. Yeah, I might do Time Watch soon, so look out for that.